Hey crafty friends, it's Joy here for Heffy Doodle. For my project today, I decided to play around with some different textures to create this really pretty Christmas card. Okay, so I'm going to start with a piece of mermaid cardstock. This is from Fawn, and I'm using this fantastic Stargazer backdrop die from Heffy Doodle. So we're going to die cut this first because I want to do my background because it's going to need to dry while we're working on another part of this project. I'm going to pop out those little stars, and by the way, you definitely could keep these and use these as shaker bits if you decided to make a shaker card. We're not doing that today because we're going to play around with textures. So obviously our first texture is our cardstock. I'm going to bring in a second texture here with some texture paste and the Star Fall stencil. Now I'm going to wiggle the stencil around to kind of fit in between those die cut stars. Some of them might overlap a little bit. I'm not super worried about it. I just want to make sure that in between these die cut stars, there's a lot of stenciled stars. So once I get that in a good place, I can tape that down onto my work surface, and I'm going to use some Cloud Whip stencil paste and a palette knife, and this is just going to be white, and I want to smear this all over the background. So this is going to be our second texture that's going to be a part of this card. Also, for my color combination, this is going to be a lot of blue and white, and then we're going to bring in a little pop of red, which I love blue or red and that kind of tealish blue color. I think that is so pretty for Christmas. I love it for anything really, but I think Christmas is really, really pretty. So once you're done spreading your stencil paste, then definitely wash your stencil immediately so your stuff doesn't dry. But when you peel this back, it's going to look so, so pretty. Okay, I have a piece of red cardstock, and I'm going to die cut these berries a few times. These are from the Leafy Laurel Circle dies, and it's a wreath, and there's some different leaves and things like that. I am just doing the wreath and these berries. I'm going to die cut these about 5 times. I think I ended up doing it a 6th time because I needed to add a berry. But this is what's going to add that fun pop of color against that teal and white background along with the wreath. Now I have already die cut the wreath as well, and I have die cut that from white cardstock, and I've die cut it twice. Now you could also die cut these from like a glitter white cardstock if you wanted to kind of like jazz up your card, but I kept it with just straight white cardstock. I did 2 because I want to add these on top of each other to make it feel a little bit thicker. So I'm just going to offset each wreath from each other just a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue and then just offset it and adhere that down. And then you can see that just makes a nice fuller wreath. Now I want to add those red berries. I'm going to add them in 5 different areas, and I'm just going to eyeball it, and there's going to be 3 in each area. I did end up having to move one of these, and you could see that there was a little bit of residual glue, but I actually was able to cover that up with my sentiment. So I didn't have to start over. I didn't have to try to fix anything. I was just able to put my sentiment right over that spot. So I just slid those over a little bit, and then I can add 2 more of these sections. Then we're going to add some foam tape behind this. I do want the wreath to have some dimension over the background. But look at how pretty that looks. I love that red and white. It's so stunning. And then when we get it up to that teal background, it's really going to pop. So let's flip this over and add some little pieces of foam tape around the back. I just kind of have some scraps to the side because I'm always trimming down my foam tape. And so I'm just going to grab some of those pieces, cut them a little bit smaller, and then I can just adhere those along the back. Let me get that last one there. And then we can go ahead and add this to the front of our card. So remember, this is the one that's stencil paste and die cut, and the stencil paste is dry. I'm going to center this right in the middle. This is an A2 sized card panel as well. Now, here's our last texture. We're going to add in some vellum. Now, I want to do this because it's going to give a different look through those die cut stars as opposed to the stenciled stars. So I'm going to add this to a white card base, but if I added it directly to it, you're just going to see the white card base through and it's going to look the same as the stenciled stars, which is not a problem, but I want it to look different, and the vellum is going to give it a frosted look, which gives a different texture looking star. Another thing that we're going to do is also pop it up with foam tape. But let's stamp the sentiment first. This is from the Holiday Sentiment Duos. It says, "Merry and bright, sending joy and love to you this Christmas." I stamped that in a cherry red ink just to kind of keep in that same color family. And then I can trim this down with my paper trimmer. This will go across the center of my wreath, which I talked about I needed to cover up that little tiny bit of a glue boo-boo and it covers it up perfectly, but then I encountered another problem and I'll show you how I fixed that. So this will also have some foam tape in the center, and I just love foam tape. I love dimension on cards. It's so pleasing to the eye. I just think it's so pretty. So on that right, I'm covering up some of those berries. That's the one that had like that little error, and I realized I can barely see any of the berries, so I die cut one more time. I'm just going to add one more berry here at the bottom, and it totally fixes it visually because it looked kind of lopsided with a lot of that red on that side hiding, but that looks so much better now, so I felt good about that. Let's add foam tape behind this. So when you're adding the foam tape behind the vellum piece, obviously don't have your foam tape show in the open vellum area, so I'm working my way around those stars. And lifting it up off of the card base means you're not going to see like a stark white background. It's going to look frosted and different compared to the stenciled stars. So it just gave it a different look. And so now you have two different looking sets of stars on this background. And I think it turned out so, so pretty. I love this card. Look at how pretty that is. You've got the die cut heart or stars, and then you have your stenciled stars and the beautiful Christmas wreath and a really nice Christmas sentiment. Thank you guys so very much for stopping by and watching. I hope that you enjoyed this project, and I hope that you feel inspired. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.